Part 80. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 795. What? Garen reminded him as he didn't hear the reply from the other party. It's just a bit unexpected. I didn't expect you to be able to talk to us so rationally and calmly. The female voice returned to normal. The price is low, so what is your psychological price point? Can you tell me? My strength is on par with the top 3. Do you think this price is low? Galen asked. That's what I said, but those who have reached this point are undoubtedly very good characters. You said that you can hit the top 3. Barry, Melseth and Caius, these 3 are not the ones that ordinary people can move by shaking them. The female voice said lightly. I can prove it in the next game, Garen replied calmly. Oh? How to prove it? A voice suddenly changed from the opposite side. It was a very clear female voice. It was a little cold, but it gave people a very strong temperament. It was obvious that the other party had temporarily replaced someone to contact him. How about the 3-second level fighting skills? Garen said casually. The voice from the other side suddenly fell silent, obviously being suffocated. Indeed, even Barry Melseth only comprehensively evaluates the 2nd level strength. Among all the actual combat evaluation subjects, there are only 10 subjects that can really be used as the standard for evaluating comprehensive strength. Among them, fighting skills suddenly come up with 3. At the 2nd level, plus the laser cannon aggregation skills that Garen previously showed, there are a total of 4 level -2 skills, which is close to the halfway mark. Indeed, as Garen himself said, he has the strength to hit the top 3, at least he is stuck. There is a good chance of rushing up to us position. Are you sure you're right? After a moment of silence, the other person finally spoke again. Of course, Garen replied calmly. He is absolutely tyrannical in combat. Although his consciousness is a little weak and he can only show his strength with basic fighting skills, his master-level combat experience is not what those little guys can compare with now. If it weren't for Uia's time limit, he could even be absolutely guaranteed to get 3rd place and kill cause. As for the 1st and 2nd places, it is not certain. The 2nd level fighting skills in this world seem to be related to consciousness, resulting in a very magical qualitative change. This kind of change is something Garen has never seen before. He couldn't guarantee what kind of comprehensive strength those 2 people could produce. After all, his consciousness is too weak, and it is an extremely shortcoming. If he is delayed for a period of time, or there are unexpected changes, it is really hard to say whether he will win or lose. We need to think about this. Please wait. The female voice on the opposite side suddenly became more and more polite. It was obvious that Garen's strength was far beyond their expectations. Indeed, as Garen said, it would be easy for the Academy referees to exchange a victory or defeat for such a master. Ordinary viewers may also be able to see the tricks in it, and it will be self-defeating if they are not careful. Garen was not in a hurry, he just quietly picked up the tablet and started tapping it lightly. He had taught himself computer programming in the vampire world, and he quickly adapted to this more high-end computer technology world. After understanding the computer binary program here, the computer here is no longer the backward machine he used before, but is at the level of a quantum computer. The so-called quantum computer concept, general binary computers use 0 and 1 as the basic units. When calculating, the data flowing through the computer are countless zeros and ones. As for quantum computers, it can be imagined that there are computers flowing in the binary computer. When encountering some difficult combinatorial nesting problems, they can solve them as quickly as possible. Quantum computers use sets as the unit of calculation, while previous computers used elements as the unit. Computing power has taken a big step forward. Being able to deal with problems collectively is one of the real reasons for the huge development of mecha warship technology. In many cases, Professional classified quantum computers can use the complex optimized organizational structure of certain parts of the mecha as a set for unit calculation analysis. The performance of the mecha assembled in this way far exceeds people's imagination, and can reach an extreme level. It is precisely because of the same origin between quantum computers and traditional computers that Galen quickly adapted to the programming model after coming into contact with computers in this era. The tablet he is using now is a typical compact quantum computer. Although it is not very advanced and has a small computing unit, it can respond quickly and analyze no matter how complex the network environment is. As time passed, Garen continued to type on the virtual keyboard projected from the tablet, and the rotating wave pattern on the screen gradually became clearer and clearer. He has initially been able to locate the location of the other party's current call. Your request is very reasonable. If you can really show such strength tomorrow, the voice from the other side finally came again. In less than 10 minutes, Garen quickly found out a series of information about Blue Narcissus in the academy on his computer. The Blue Narcissus organization is a relatively large insider organization of Black Pan College. As one of the 3 student organizations of Black Pan, Blue Narcissus is a force that represents the children of powerful people. Its individual members may not be strong, but the BJ network is definitely the most powerful of the 3 major organizations. In other words, to put it simply, is a group of powerful forces that specializes in absorbing the prince sealings from the princess party of the academy. Unlike the Black Rose and the centrist Millennium Tree, which respect actual combat strength, the Blue Narcissus main theme is that regardless of relationship background or individual strength, it is part of the strength, but they prefer the children of the powerful, or their leaders. They themselves have been the children of top powerful people from generation to generation. Among our 3 major organizations, many people actually have misunderstandings about our Blue Narcissus. The woman opposite explained in a low voice, we are not inclined to the powerful, but only absorb those geniuses who can break free from the vortex of power background. This is strictly in line with the purpose of the college. I understand, so what are you going to do? About me? We fully agree with your conditions, the woman replied firmly. On behalf of Blue Narcissus, I agree to your request. Elites must be treated like elites. She thought for a moment and maybe exchanged opinions with others. As for cooperating with you, we now have a new way. I wonder if you are willing to accept it? Garen pressed the enter key on the computer keyboard with one hand and looked at the cluster of blue daffodils again. What method? Tell me. The new way is that if you really have the ability to hit the top 3, then as long as you join our Blue Narcissus, we can support you to hit the top 3 and win the elite spot in the individual battle. As long as you can become an elite member, we can give you the best treatment, whether it is for your family or your own development. It is said that your previous surgery fees were advanced by your teacher. You must also hope to repay teacher Ham's surgery fees as soon as possible. The woman opposite seemed to know Nanosawa's information very clearly. What kind of treatment? Garen has always only cared about actual benefits. This change in the other party's attitude was also expected by him. It was one of the directions of variables, so he was not surprised. Your parents' positions remain unchanged, and your salary and gray income will be increased to 500,000 points a year. Within the academy, you will have a certain degree of background support from our Blue Narcissus members. Of course, your rival Ariello in grade C will also including it. You don't have to worry about them using your family background to suppress you in the future. And I believe you can handle a head-on confrontation on your own. Didn't some of Kaz's friends get a good lesson from you last time? The woman seemed to say. Seems much more relaxed. Is the background power guaranteed? The information found by Garen also showed this. This is one of the ways Blue Narcissus attracts potential students. Potential students with poor family backgrounds are generally vulnerable to oppression by the children of powerful people outside. Under such circumstances, they are extremely fragile before they have grown up, and their talents will be wasted if they are not careful. Blue Narcissus actions are to give full play to the advantages of their strong backgrounds and coordinate or protect the development of potential students. Eventually, when these potential students grow up and become a new generation of powerful people, most of them will not forget the timely help at this critical time. Hundreds of years after the establishment of Black Pan College, these three student organizations have always been able to remain standing. Naturally, they have their own merits, which cannot be summed up by simple arrogance and domineering. It's just that those who can be given such treatment by Blue Narcissus are naturally top talents who can have a good future. 5 people in each grade are considered good. On the contrary, it absorbs more and more powerful children every year, which naturally pales in comparison to other organizations. Garen thought about it carefully, and now he, that is, no Siwa lacked this point. His family background could easily be oppressed by some powerful children, which also hindered his personal development. The support given by Blue Narcissus was exactly what he needed most. Increasing the power ratio of our Blue Narcissus among elite students is our focus. Those who can enter the elite as freshmen will often receive more resources. Because such freshmen have great potential. Big the woman explained sincerely. What do you think? Joining our Blue Narcissus will be your best choice. Garen was silent for a moment. As far as I know, aren't there 2 other major organizations? Black Rose and Millennium Tree. Unfortunately, your opponent Kavas is from the Millennium Tree, and his brother, the test student Cole, who was accidentally injured by you, is an elite member of Grade B in Black Rose. In addition, they are in the machine. I have a professional network in the field of practical combat, and you haven't shown any amazing qualifications or genius, so it's natural that I didn't invite you. The woman didn't hide anything and told the truth directly. Okay, I agree to join Blue Narcissus. Garen thought about it and replied directly. Whatever organization he joins, it's just a temporary help for him. As long as the organization gives him a good impression, he doesn't mind giving them back in return when he grows up. Moreover, the most important thing is that the other party is very sincere and what he says is consistent with what he has found using hacking techniques. This means that the other party really wants to win over and invest in him. Our mission at Blue Narcissus is to make every member proud of us, and to make us proud of every member. The woman solemnly replied, you will not regret joining. Garen smiled and hung up the phone. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 796. In the arena under the projection of a huge battleship. Waves of cheers and screams kept rising and falling, and they were coaxed from the arena again and again. The crowd was excited and shouting. There is a huge aerostat suspended above the arena, and rows of new data are constantly being refreshed on the display screen on the side. Grade A, first place is Nicotine Kate, second place is Carlos, the third place is Mingda. Grade B, first Gondar, second, Ruth Trebahan, third Mary. Grade C, the first is Melsith, the second is Barry, and the third is Caius. The data on the aerostat screen clearly showed the top 3 grades with the strongest records on the field. This ranking not only depends on the individual, but if the same record is the same, it also depends on the class ranking to determine the ranking. The more than 100 class distributed grids on the field are like small grids of a honeycomb. Inside, there are densely packed players and teachers from each class on the field, who are constantly communicating and discussing the finals that are about to start today. Different from the noise of the spectators on the side of the field, the elite players in these grids had more calm faces and calm expressions. Number 4 was not affected by the heated atmosphere. Players who would be affected and perform abnormally have all been eliminated at this stage, and what is left are those with increasingly powerful abilities and qualities in all aspects. In a black grid on the left side of the field, Garen and Fabricero were listening to Teacher Ham's whispered instructions. Today's competition is different from yesterday. When you go there, remember to be calm, collected, and use your full strength. Even if you lose, don't leave any regrets. Understood. Fay Bailey seemed to have adjusted and regained his previous calmness. His gaze drifted to the grid in a certain direction on the other side from time to time. Sarah whispered into Garen's ear. Fabriel met a contestant from his rival family yesterday. It seemed that the other party said something that stimulated him. Garen followed Fay Bailey's line of sight and happened to see a green-haired girl in the grid wiping Fay Bailey's neck with a sinister smile on her face. The short-haired girl looks very fierce, with a strong figure and a scar on the corner of her eyebrow. She wears a white college uniform and gives off a clean and neat temperament. He noticed that Fay Bailey's fists were slightly clenched at some point. It's true. Garen heard Sarah sigh and shake her head, as if she knew something hidden. But he didn't bother to ask, because it was his turn to play soon. C5 Bano Siwa vs C14 ends. Following the announcement of the mechanical sound, Garen quickly entered the mecha in the passage. A pastry shop in the south of the city. It's Alan's brother. Look, look. The clerk Zayulai shouted loudly. Everyone in the other shops in Don's turned their gazes over, including several couples who were choosing cakes. Stop screaming! Alan quickly came over with a look of embarrassment on his face, and pulled Zayulai while blushing hotly. On the TV screen, a separate picture of two mecha pilots boarding the machine at the same time was shown. In front of the white mecha on the right, a black-haired boy who had just got into the mecha immediately attracted the attention of everyone in the store. With a nod of Zayulai's fingers, everyone knew that he was Nono Siwa, Alan's brother. The black-haired boy on the picture has a cold face and deep blue eyes, giving him a cold temperament. The black school uniform with a white background and a blue sword highlights his well-proportioned figure. Sitting in the mecha, a black helmet above him slowly lowered automatically, covering the boy's not-so-handsome face. Then the electronic display screens around the mecha gradually lit up one after another, and the blue and white fluorescence illuminated the interior of the mecha. What is being played now is the first match in which the winner group of Grade C is challenged. Yuns from Class C14 challenges Nono Siwa from Class C5. Both players are true freshmen who have only entered the Blackboard Academy for 1 year. Elite, in just 1 year, each of them has made great progress. Compared with Nono Siwa's strong victory record, ENS encountered the current number 1 Melz's midway. Unfortunately, defeated. The TV screen immediately jumped to two sitting hosts. A beautiful female anchor and another white-haired old man were sitting side by side. Facing the audience, they were introducing the records and identities of the two people on the screen who were about to fight. So cool. A boy clerk next to Alan couldn't help but whisper. This is also the common sentiment of many other people in the store. ENS on the left is a girl with long white hair, beautiful appearance, and calm complexion. Nono Shiva on the right gives people a cold and ruthless temperament. Is this a mecha master? Beside the pink-haired store manager, a black-haired boy stared at the two people on the screen with slight envy, his eyes shining brightly. So handsome, he murmured. Study hard and you will have opportunities in the future, the store manager laughed and slapped the boy on the head. It hurts. Why did sister hit me again? I'm not motivating you. How can there be such motivation? Alan looked enviously at the black-haired boy running around with his head in his hands, without saying anything. Although it was very difficult to maintain a life of working and studying at the same time, this situation inevitably affected his studies and his grades began to gradually decline. Perhaps I can just learn a pastry craft honestly from now on, and then become an ordinary person. He raised his head and looked at his brother in the picture who was waiting for the war to begin, with an inexplicable luster in his eyes. Alan, his shoulder was patted lightly. Alan suddenly came back to his senses and saw the black-haired boy standing in front of him. Don't worry, you will have a chance in the future, the boy smiled shyly. Your brother is your brother, and you are you. Don't be that indifferent, brother. We will be your brothers and sisters from now on. Zayulai also came over, as well as the clerk Devier. Alan is sincere, honest, and diligent in the store. He is very talented in learning pastry techniques. He is also very kind. He often helps others when he can and never refuses others. This also won everyone's friendship. Looking at the people gathered around him, Alan was extremely moved. The game begins. Suddenly the sound of starting came from the TV. On the field, the moment the white mecha controlled by Garen finished speaking, two white laser beams exploded. The tyrannical power of the laser cannon was like two sharp swords piercing the chest of the black mecha. But he was quickly avoided by the opponent. At this moment, Garen actually threw away the laser cannon in his hand and pulled out a hidden gauze electromagnetic gun from behind. When the opponent dodged the laser cannon, he actually set up the gauze cannon straight in just 2 seconds. The thick black barrel was pointed straight at the black mecha. Bang! The black cannonball instantly traveled a distance of tens of meters and hit the transparent barrier behind the black mecha, then rebounded and hit the jet engine behind it. Cokes! The black mecha lost power, staggered forward a few steps, and fell to its knees. There was another bang, the mecha's head exploded, and the battle was over. This is interference backlash. Teacher Ham stood up in disbelief, with an incredible surprise on his face. Another level 2 skill. The audience outside the stadium instantly burst into strong cheers. The second level skill of interference and rebound is the only 3 combat skills among all the skills of the second level mecha master that do not require the cooperation of consciousness. By judging and calculating various external environments, long-range weapons can be used to rebound or shoot with refraction effects. Interference rebound, as well as the previous laser cannon convergence, Nono Siwa has demonstrated 2 powerful techniques that can be used without the cooperation of consciousness. Putting away the gauze cannon, Garen turned and walked towards the return passage without even looking at the black mecha on the ground. On the other side, Faye Bailey was also fighting furiously with another black mecha, and the battle was far more intense than this one. Sarah hasn't played yet, but has already entered the waiting channel. All the classes ranked in the bottom 3 of the winning group were challenged intensively. Al and Mia also saw the game end in an instant, with joy and pride on their faces. Such a performance of strength and performance, and that it can still be so smooth after reaching the current point, undoubtedly shows the extremely powerful foundation and strength of Garen. Strength. In the seats behind them, several students who seemed to have a stable temperament also nodded slightly when they saw Garen's performance, with a hint of surprise in their eyes. Pastry shop. It's actually an interference rebound technique. I can't believe that this kind of technique can actually appear on a student who has only been in school for 1 year, the host exclaimed in a low voice, covering his mouth and watching the battle on the screen. Although we have seen the high-end skills of short-range bursts and electric current control of the Spear of Victory before, we are still surprised to see such a similarly difficult technology appearing on such a young person. The old man who explained was full. Face shook his head appreciatively. In comparison, compared to these young people, us old guys have spent our lives in vain. We are worthy of being the geniuses of Black Pen Academy. Yes, young talents emerge one after another in the elite qualifying competition of Blackboard Academy every year, and their performances are surprising every time. The host nodded. Indeed, if he can use the second-level skills freely and train in actual combat, this young man will be equivalent to a standard captain who leads the mecha division on the battlefield, and he is not yet 18 years old. The old man. Admire. It's really amazing. They are all the real top geniuses in Black Pen Academy. The black-haired boy couldn't help but start to admire again. He glanced at Alan, who was staring at him in a daze. The boy couldn't help but touch the one he picked up not long ago. Little things. But I'm not bad either. With this thing, I will definitely be able to become an equally good mecha master. Don't touch my pure body, a male-female voice suddenly entered his mind. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. The black-haired boy quickly apologized in his heart. Don't worry, the future you long for will definitely not be bad. Although you are a waste with no qualifications at all, waste also has the advantages of waste. The voice did not conceal the contempt and arrogance in its tone. Are my qualifications really that bad? Aren't they just ordinary? The young man asked helplessly. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 797. Compared to the ordinary boy next to you, your qualifications are like the difference between a firefly and the moon. To say you are ordinary is too flattering to you, the voice replied contemptuously. If it weren't for the noble me who was certified by you by chance, I guess you will just be a scrap collector for the rest of your life. The young man's face suddenly fell, and the other party's words suddenly made him feel that his future hope was slim. Don't worry, as long as you humble me, obediently listen to my words, you will do whatever I want you to do. I will definitely guarantee that you will succeed beyond your imagination in the future. By the way, what is your name? Clin. Climessa, the young man replied feebly. Okay, Clin, what the hell, now I want you to do something. What's up? Put me on the young man next to you temporarily. I need to detect him. If everything goes well, this guy should be able to become one of your men, the voice said directly. At this stage, because of your mentally retarded waste, you cannot exert too much strength, so finding some trustworthy people to serve as your subordinates is the preparation you must make. Burin is my friend, not a subordinate, young Clin corrected him weakly. Ever since he came to his sister's place for an internship to experience part-time working life, this thing he picked up began to slowly change his life. In order to restore his former glory, he reluctantly accepted his certification, but his life was suddenly turned upside down. Trash is just trash. Don't you even have the courage to bear the fate of others? Clin glanced at Alan next to him, and also saw the desire and envy for the mecha in his eyes. Besides, even if I dare to undertake it, you will need energy to transform it, right? It will also take time, right? Okay, whatever you want. If you think about it, stick me to the surface of this guy's skin. The voice suddenly dropped. Although he didn't know why the always strong opponent suddenly became so easy to talk to, Clint still breathed a sigh of relief for the time being. Turning his attention to the TV screen again, the screen was already showing the battle situation of the senior mechas. Lord Chayu. What's the matter? If you have anything to say, tell me quickly. I'm busy, the voice said impatiently. Can I reach the level of Brother Alan? Clin lowered his head unconfidently. His level? Are your goals too low? The voice called Chiyu said disdainfully, and do you think that guy named Nyanyo is very powerful? Isn't it amazing? You can use level 2 skills at such a young age. Haha. Is that really the case? Chiyu sneered, that kind of patterned movements, his consciousness. Even if I tell you, you won't understand. You will know later. Oh. Game 3. Garen sat in the mecha and took a deep breath. Using his consciousness for a long time made his temples feel a dull pain. This was caused by his low consciousness level. Although he had the additional increase of the crescent moon, it would not last for a long time. The battle also increased the burden on his consciousness. But this is also part of the game. Fighting for a long time is also a test of endurance, consciousness, and endurance. On the opposite field, the black mechas standing on the black alloy ground faced him as if facing a formidable enemy. He held up a silver tower shield that could cover most of his body. This kind of tower shield was like a mirror and could quickly attack him. It is a weapon that reflects beam attacks, and it is a high-strength alloy. It also has a good defensive effect on Gaussian live ammunition weapons. The game has entered a stalemate. How will the elite Langton from the loser group perform against the instant killer Nono Siwa with a winning record? The commentator's voice came faintly from outside. Garen's face was expressionless. At this point, if he wins a few more games, he will truly enter the winner's bracket civil war. The opponent on the opposite side, Langton, defeated Sarah. Their chief was fighting a decisive battle with Faber, and they didn't know the outcome. Once Faye Bailey fails, then Class C's ranking will stop here. It will not be able to participate in the winners group civil war, which means that the previous 9th place will be replaced and fall directly to 11th place. But Garin stared at the black mecha opposite him with a headache. That guy was just like a turtle shell. Whether it was focused laser cannon shooting or interference rebound skills, he was constantly blocked and relieved by the opponent's hard wall skills. The pattern is biased. And the opponent is a very patient type, obviously using delaying defense and counter-attack tactics. Bang! The gauze cannon made a loud noise, and the black shell instantly hit the upper right corner of the black mecha tower shield, trying to knock the shield into flight. But the black mecha seemed to have predicted it, and the shield on one side of its body suddenly swayed slightly. Clang! The black mecha staggered back a few steps, and turned from facing Garin to facing sideways. The shield directly used the center part of the cannonball to deflect it and fly it away. Blocked again. It's the second level skill of student Langton, Strong Wall, which can always resist the opponent's attack with the core part of the shield. Even Nanosawa's gauze cannon was directly blocked. The commentator, who was only equipped for the finals, spoke hastily. Road. This is a turtle shell. Garin quickly looked at the time, 8 minutes. It must be resolved immediately. Bang. The black gauze gun barrel roared again, and the cannonball with a cooling time of 10 seconds was fired again. Without waiting for the next cooling down, Galen switched to the laser cannon and continued shooting without looking at the result. For a moment, the white laser beam of Chi-Chi hit Langton's shield unilaterally. The entire field was filled with Galen's unilateral attack and shooting, while Langton was purely defensive. As the game progressed, the opponent's Garin encountered became stronger and stronger, and his consciousness consumption increased. His consciousness was only in the middle of the basic level, and could not even reach the first level. This continued after fighting for a few times. I had already recovered and was unable to keep up with my expenditure. Clang! The black light of the gauze cannon flashed, and finally the Langton shield was slightly deflected, revealing the mecha body behind it. Only then did everyone realize that the several consecutive gauze cannons just hit the same position on the tower shield. Not much deviation. That's it. Galen fine-tuned the laser cannon, and the white light at the muzzle condensed. It's over. Chi. Suddenly, the white crescent light on the control panel flashed, and suddenly dimmed. Again, Garin suddenly felt something was wrong. The control ability of the machine disappeared instantly, and the mecha became abnormally delayed and unresponsive again. It's that time again. A trace of gloom flashed across his face. Time passed by, the white light of the laser cannon disappeared, and calm returned. Garen's white mecha stood quietly on the spot, facing the black mecha opposite. The arena fell into silence for a moment. The black mecha looked at the shield in his hand and was silent for a while. Tens of seconds later. I surrender. The voice of black mecha Langton came out. The black mecha dropped the tower shield, and everyone realized that his shield was now full of holes, and it was only a few inches away from being penetrated directly. Obviously, within a few more times, this shield will be completely useless, and giving up in advance now is just to make the loss look better. Winner C5 Benno Siwa. It is no longer a cold mechanical sound, but replaced by an impassioned narrator's voice. A large number of students cheered, and the students in Class C5 were even more excited. On the other side, Faye Bailey cut off the right arm of his opponent's mobile phone frame with one knife. Sparks were flying all over his body. It was obvious that the machine body was reaching its limit. Both mechas were in tatters. It was almost through endurance and persistence that he won this time. Victory. Winner Class C5 Faye Bailey. The same voice sounded. Fay Bailey sat in the mecha and closed his eyes slightly, his face pale with fatigue. The skyship is on the side screen. Class C5's ranking was once again stable at 9th place, completely defeating the 3 challenging classes in the lower bracket. Garen looked up at the rankings and felt a little stressed. If his opponent had continued to attack and not give up in the dangerous situation just now, he might have been the loser. His consciousness is too weak, which makes it more difficult to deal with the opponents he encounters as he gets to the back. Without sufficient consciousness to support him, he simply relies on Yuya's control and coordination. Once he faces this kind of protracted battle, Turtle Shell may really be defeated. Dragged to death. Consciousness must solve this problem as soon as possible, recalling the chain drop problem that occurred several times in a row at critical moments. Garen also knew that the fundamental reason was that his consciousness was too weak. The instability of Yuya makes him unsure when facing defensive opponents. If this problem is not solved, the subsequent civil war in the winner group will be really troublesome. After getting off the mecha, they celebrated and congratulated each other, and then went for recovery massage and supplemented with nutritional water. Until the evening, the arena was closed. Garen once again refused to go together to celebrate the 9th place result, and left the arena alone, walk towards the dormitory. The third day is the finals. In the civil war of the winner group, the top 3 will be selected. As this year's elite candidates, the entire winner group has mastered a second-level skill, and they are not easy to compete with. Garen now probably understands his own level. With his consciousness severely limited, he can only use combat experience to use combat techniques that do not require the cooperation of consciousness, but that's all. Consciousness limits him. If you fight for a long time, you cannot use combat skills combined with consciousness, and it will be difficult to cope with the opponent's consciousness skills. In the next finals, you have to pay attention to the sudden situation of Yuya losing her chain. It's really troublesome. Garen walked on the way back, constantly paying attention to the changes in the heart modification time on his attribute bar, and the countdown timetable was shrinking. We can only find a way from the secret martial arts. The transformation of Peacock Kung Fu should be to use white malachite to speed up and shorten the time. Galen returned to the dormitory, closed the door and opened the terminal address book, finding the contact number of the bearded businessman. Called directly. After a beep of waiting for a connection, the call was quickly connected. "You're calling so early? The goods haven't arrived yet," the bearded businessman asked doubtfully. "When will the second batch of goods arrive?" Garen asked directly without any nonsense. "If all goes well, tomorrow at noon. After all, it will be shipped in from other domains, and the quantity this time will be a bit large. Being an alliance leader is so stressful." Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 798. The price is still the same as last time. The price difference for such a large batch of wholesale is considered as a rebate for you. Please hurry me and have it shipped to me as soon as possible. Garen frowned. Are you in such a hurry? Okay, I'll go check out the process and see where you've reached, and hurry up as soon as possible. The bearded man was also a little helpless. As for kickbacks or something, he hesitated, but finally became honest. I don't want any kickbacks or anything like that. I'm already making a lot of money. Cooperation requires persistence over a long period of time, and Luozihu obviously understands this. If this trade wants to last for a long time, it must not give the other party a reason to change the transaction partner, and it is best to show off one's own advantages as much as possible. By the way, what's your name? Garen suddenly asked. Ken, the bearded uncle, was a little helpless. He had clearly introduced himself last time. Okay, Ken, if you can transport it to the academy for me tonight, then I will raise the price to 5 points apiece for you. Garen directly offered the inducement. When he came to this world and faced the mysterious consciousness system, he had a vague feeling and a premonition that this consciousness seemed to be a force no less powerful than his secret martial arts system. His martial arts consciousness can be vaguely seen from the future of the consciousness training method. Being able to rule the cosmic civilization based on the star field and still be at the pinnacle of power, such a system is likely to hide some powerful features that are not known to ordinary people. Tonight, the voice from the terminal on the opposite side suddenly disappeared, as if he was thinking about it. Galleon was not in a hurry and waited quietly. This time he wanted a large quantity of goods. Last time it was more than 200 pills and he spent 1,000 points, which is almost 5 points a pill. Although the price increase to 5 points is not a big amount, but this time the number was more than 2,000. Transactions of tens of thousands of points can be done in one go. Such a transaction would not be considered a small business even in an ordinary physical store, let alone a hawker like him who only has enough capital to run a small pushcart business. Before 3 o'clock tonight, all your white stones will be in front of you. Finally, Ken's affirmative voice came from over there. His tone was very firm, and seemed to reveal a sense of determination. Okay, I'll wait for your news. Garen heard this. It can be seen that Ken really intends to use this transaction to express his determination. To shorten the travel time by half, both in terms of expense and energy, it is not something that ordinary hawkers can easily achieve. Ken obviously intends to make this transaction. I have invested heavily in this business. The point is to show his sincerity and ability to cooperate. Viewpoint terminal, Garen took a deep breath. The shortcomings in consciousness must be made up as soon as possible. The deeper we go into this world, the less simple it becomes. He sat down at his desk, turned on his tablet, and began to search for information about advanced combat skills. Unfortunately, there is no relevant information on the web page, and most of it has been banned and removed. There is only some information on the Mecha Battle website, but many of those things look extremely unreal. Not much reference value. It has been a while since he came to this world without realizing it. Garen has gradually integrated into it, and the information about the most powerful force in this world is naturally what he wants to know the most. He kept clicking on web pages, looking for relevant information on the computer. With hacking skills, although the converted technology was not very proficient, it was still easy to find information. Going beyond conventional channels, Garen quickly found some advanced information about Mecha Master assessments. A white box was displayed on the light blue screen, which listed the assessment subjects that senior pilots need to pass line by line. Consciousness test reaches level 4. Own exclusive applicable Mecha. More than one qualifying record. Qualification certificate issued by the authoritative department. There is still no specific strength comparison information. Galen pushed the computer away. Obviously there are managers who are more skilled than me in supervising this information. Although my hacking skills are very strong, they are only for ordinary people. There is still a big gap between top hackers and the like. He is still self-aware of this. I'm used to reaching 5th star strength in the last world, but I'm really not used to such a weak body now. Garen frowned and clicked on the Battle.net communication client. This is a communication software similar to QQ, but it can be connected to Battle.net. Used together. There are many friends on AL, a large and densely packed area, but many of them have been added and have no contact with each other. Maybe the other party has long deleted Nono's number from their friends. Garen clicked on the friends column marked unknown, and there were 2 avatars flashing in color. He looked at the 2 avatars, but still didn't click on the contact. This is Nanosiva's friend, not his. There is almost no message information in the lower right corner of AL, only 2 official AL advertising information. This was the first time that Garen got on Nyano's account and took a look at his interpersonal circle. There are only 2 groups of friends, middle school classmates and elementary school classmates. Then there are friends Al and Mia and their families. The rest have no network at all. It's really simple. He casually scanned the information in the classmate group. There was nothing nutritious. One group was almost dead, while the other was much livelier, but no one mentioned Nono Siwa at all, as if he is completely different from the ones in this group. Even though he has now become a top student of Black Pen Academy, with such an enviable status, no one seems to know about it. The people inside chat with each other as if they are completely unaware. After getting to know Nanosawa's social circle, Garen probably knew what to do and turned off AL. After looking at the terminal, there were several messages on the watch terminal, and the source was an unknown number. We have seen your performance today, and the interviewer will come to your place to register tonight. Hope to cooperate. Blue Narcissus, this message will be automatically deleted after reading. Notice about the arrangements for the individual competition. The event arrangement is as follows: the first game of the finals vs the 8th in the upper group, the second game of the finals vs the 6th in the upper group. Distribution will be automatically advanced after the run-off. This is a notice from the college. Garen replied with a message of understanding to Blue Narcissus, then quietly turned off the lights and sat cross-legged on the bed to practice the exercise method. No one would disturb him at this time. Al and the others knew that he would have to compete in the finals tomorrow. Now the key is to rest. Time passes little by little. The faint sounds of people and footsteps outside the window gradually became rarer, with only the occasional sound of passing vehicles. Garen was immersed in the exercise method. Although he could hardly feel any progress, it was better than sitting there and being bored. The qualifications of this body were too mediocre. Such mediocrity became a problem in a school with elites like Black Pen Academy. Inferior. If there is no way to solve it, Nono Siwa will malfunction during the sophomore year, and then be exposed as a scam and kicked out of the academy. After receiving such a blow, he might not be able to become a mecha master in his lifetime, and it would only take a short time for any student in the academy to become a mecha master. This is the gap. Boom boom. The door suddenly rang softly, not the doorbell, but a gentle knock. Garen opened his eyes, stood up and walked to the door. He looked out through the peephole and saw a young girl in a cream-white school uniform. She wore glasses and had long brown hair hanging down from the left side to her chest. Gives people a gentle temperament. Opening the door with a click, Garen looked at the other person slightly. Who are you? I'll handle the registration process for you. The girl smiled lightly. Please come in. Garen nodded and turned sideways to let the other person in. My name is Chris, your name is Nono Shivalin, right? The girl walked into the room, looked around, and asked casually. What do I need to do? Garen turned around and heard a crisp click, just in time to see Chris taking a photo of himself with something like a small camera. This is avatar registration. Please press your finger here to register your fingerprint. Chris took out a tablet and pointed the screen towards Garen. Garen reached out and clicked on the screen, and suddenly the computer made a crisp beep. Okay, it's over. We will make a membership badge for you soon. All you have to do now is concentrate on the game. Chris smiled. So simple, Garen was slightly surprised. It's that simple. There is also a three-dimensional image model scan, which has been completed when you enter. All of this personal information will be recorded in your file as part of the C-grade member of Blue Narcissus. Chris nodded. Now comes the key. What? Garen made a gesture to sit down, and the two of them sat on the two chairs beside the table. Chrissy crossed her legs slightly and leaned back on the chair. Nanyo, regarding your opponents in tomorrow's finals, we have listed some information and their previous records. You can have a little understanding of their abilities and be aware of them. In addition, join our Blue Narcissus. If you as an elite student, you will get a membership card of Lyle's comprehensive club, where you can spend many items for free, such as fitness, entertainment, and accommodation. The membership card, worth 100,000 general points every year, can also be used freely in the entire Black Disk area. Consumption is equivalent to a bank card in disguise. Such a good treatment, Garin smacked his lips slightly. An investment of 100,000 points a year was not a bad decision even when he was not sure whether the other party would sincerely join Blue Narcissus. Of course, and Lyles will also provide you with many convenient information services and hiring services. If you want to buy some contraband, it is also allowed. Chris smiled. There are many controlled things outside. We Lyles provide sources of goods, including territories. As long as you have the ability, of course you can also accept employment tasks from others through this platform and earn high amounts of extra money. This is very convenient. Garin nodded slightly. The so-called contraband is nothing more than drugs, military supplies, and territory. Outside of the Black Disk domain, there are many domains where the lordship system is used. Nobles and lords have legal territories. However, during times of war, it is reasonable for the great nobles and lords to sell part of their territories in exchange for more resources and technological development. It's understandable that although the law expressly stipulates that the buying and selling of territory is not allowed, the actual situation is known to everyone, but no one cares about it, and no one can control it. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 799. Territory. Really, Garin was also slightly moved. If he could get a piece of his own territory and become a noble lord, the land would come second. What is really important is the benefits and rights gained in the process. Many things can be achieved through the status of a lord and noble. From illegal to legal. This is the most precious. You must also know that many territories, even if they are very small, are worth tens of thousands of gold, but there are still countless people flocking to them and can't find a way to buy them. And we, Blue Narcissus, only provide this to our own people. Even the Black Rose and the Thousand-Year Tree do not have our rights and interests. This is something unique to our Blue Narcissus. Chris saw Garin's eagerness for the territory. It seems I made a wise choice. Garin smiled. Of course. Chris took out a storage disk, a golden pendant the size of a fingernail, which looked like a shell ornament. Here are the information, so I will go back first. I wish you victory in the finals tomorrow, she said. Stand up. Thank you. Garin stood up and nodded. Chris gently shook hands with Garin, then turned and walked out of the room. Listening to the click of the door closing behind her, she nodded towards a boy waiting outside the corridor. The two came together and left the freshman dormitory. How's it going? The boys are also wearing milky white school uniforms. This is only worn by grade B. Grade C is pure white. It's strange. This no Siwa is completely different from the rumors. It gives people a very sophisticated feeling. Chris showed a slightly strange look. I feel like I am dealing with an old man of several decades. The other person is very calm. He doesn't look like a teenager at all. Isn't this great? If you have potential, just establish a good relationship with him. There are many students in the academy who can pretend, so you don't need to make a fuss, the boy said with a smile. It's not a disguise. Chris frowned slightly. It just gives people a very strange temperament. Logically speaking, the finals are about to begin, so he should be a little stressed, but it seems to me that his mentality, it couldn't be better. Forget it, don't think too much about it. These things have nothing to do with us. It would be better if this no has potential. That's right. Chris nodded and said no more. What kind of supper are you going to eat today? Let's go and take a look. The calories we ate in the afternoon were so high that I don't want to eat them now. The two of them walked along the street lights at night, just like ordinary student couples, cuddling together in pairs, and there was no difference at all. Garin closed the curtains and sat back in front of the computer. All the contents of the data tray had been wirelessly transferred to the tablet. There were 4 documents in total. He clicked on one and looked at it carefully. The situation of the finals was immediately displayed in front of him. Compared with the academy simply sending competition notices, the information here was obviously much more comprehensive. What caught Garen's attention the most was not the class ranking, but the individual ranking. At this point, it is safe for Class C5 to enter the top 10. It's just a matter of how many places in the front it needs to be. All subsequent battles were complete defeats. The so-called total defeat means that all the opponent players must be defeated to be considered a victory. 3 people versus 3 people, the previous 3 battles and 2 wins were cancelled, and victory was based on defeating all opponents as the standard. This is also considering that in the finals, there are elite players and even some who are capable of competing against others. In order to achieve an absolutely fair evaluation of their strength, a total defeat mode is adopted. The finals will be divided into 3 groups of melees based on the top 3, and the top 3 in individual competition will be truly determined. The strongest of the 3 selected groups will have the right to challenge once. Pieces of data were continuously scanned by galleons, and time passed little by little. Unknowingly, the night was getting deeper and deeper. The information was mixed with many battle videos of tomorrow's opponents. They were compiled in great detail, and Garen was watching them very attentively. The more he looked, the more frightened he became. Tomorrow's opponent will be the weakest at the same level as the Lantern he met today. There are no shortcomings. All of them are mentally strong characters. Although they seem to have little combat experience, they all use special skills combined with their consciousness. Wei Chi's strength exceeded Garen's expectations and imagination. According to one of the opponent's information, a consciousness move called Radio Hammer was used. The Radio Hammer is a conscious external weapon that combines consciousness with a mecha. The force field War Hammer released is invisible and intangible, but it can directly damage the opponent's driver's body functions through the mecha armor. Only consciousness-only opponents whose level is similar to him can sense the electric wave hammer in advance and avoid or defend it. And defense requires special similar means. Garen carefully learned that this technique is not the strongest among the second level or above techniques, and there are more powerful skills that can only be used with strong consciousness. For example, the consciousness cutting knife is another opponent's unique move. It has huge lethality. Facing an opponent whose consciousness is much weaker than his, it can even kill an opponent with one blow. It can directly hit the opponent's driver with one blow, causing a sharp weapon attack similar to a knife wound. It's very troublesome. Garen frowned. When he came to this world, he always had a vague sense of superiority. He believed that although this world was a technological world with huge destructive power, in terms of his own development potential, he still had it is far inferior to the civilization of Maiwo Gaianduo, but now it seems that the path of consciousness development is equally as powerful as Gaianduo. These are 2 civilizations in different directions. It seems that we have to be careful in the future. After seeing the effects of these specific lethal moves, Garen completely put away his contempt and truly faced up to the power system of consciousness. How to deal with this pure consciousness competition technique? Although the information explains that this kind of consciousness technique that can penetrate the mecha and directly kill the driver is very rare, and it also consumes a lot of money for the releaser himself, and can only be used point to point. Most of them are skills that can be combined with mechas to exert greater power, but their scarcity does not mean that they are not available. Galen specially selected information on pure consciousness techniques and searched on the internet. The battle of consciousness is a bit like the battle of mental power. You can kill 1,000 enemies and lose 800. It can only be used in one-on-one situations. There are many restrictions. When the distance is very far in outer space, this ability is of little use. The pilot's consciousness is not yet up to the level of being able to travel through high-energy particle winds and accurately strike opponents at long distances. So this technique is only commonly used in ground combat. The more Garen watched, the more frightened he became. If he encountered such a pure skill in consciousness, he couldn't see, touch, or sense it. He simulated it several times in his mind, and in the end his winning rate was less than 50%. This is based on the fact that Crescent Moon can be used without restrictions. His mood was also slightly heavy. It seems that the best I can do is stay outside the top 3. From this information, he also learned that pilots with level 2 consciousness can also use this technique in life. In other words, they can also use this dangerous technique without being separated from the mecha. This is one of the reasons. This is one of the reasons why second-level pilots are respected. Black Pan Academy Battlefield Simulation Area. Kavas and another red-haired boy sat face to face in the rest area, looking at the roaring mechas in actual combat outside the glass window while drinking the refined fruit essence. The red crystal-like essence was sucked into the straw along the glass, and emitted a glass-like color under the light. All the information you want is here. That boy has joined Blue Narcissus. The red-haired boy handed over a piece of paper information. Kavas took it and put down the cup and began to leaf through it slowly. I didn't intend to play dirty tricks in the first place. Sneaky tricks are meaningless. Wouldn't it be better to beat him openly on the field, in front of everyone, until he kneeled in front of me like a dog, he said slightly. Smiled. You are really interested, the red-haired boy yawned. I also have the evaluation I got from Yeah. What review? It's just an average level of excellence. Oh? He has defeated several superior level opponents in a row. How come he has such a low evaluation? Generally, the superior level only means that he is an outstanding student in the class and department. Kausu became interested. This no CY has a fatal shortcoming. The red-haired boy raised an index finger, his consciousness. It's too weak. Kausu was thoughtful for a moment. Have you noticed? In Nanosawa's battle, there has never been a combat technique that can only be used with consciousness, and the techniques he is famous for using are 2 of the 3 major techniques that do not require consciousness. What does this mean? The red-haired boy said affirmatively. This means that his consciousness is very weak, and he is unwilling to consume even a trace of it, otherwise it may even affect the endurance of the battle. A hint of understanding flashed in Kausu's eyes, and he nodded slightly. In other words, what I want to do is to attack his weakness. 2 tactics. The red-haired boy raised 2 fingers. If he can rush in front of you, you have 2 options. One is to kill him with consciousness skills. The other is to slowly drag him to death. Compared to that hard-walled Landon, your defensive skills are even close to level 3. In this aspect alone, even Melsith is at best on par with you. You can definitely play him to death. Kaz suddenly smiled. The red-haired boy looked at him speechlessly. To be honest, I really don't understand you. With your unique skill, the Phantom Beam Knife, you can definitely deal with this guy in one go. Not to mention killing him, at least it's easy to make him cripple one of his hands and feet. Is it interesting to deal with an ordinary student like this? He almost killed my brother, what do you think? Kava stared at him coldly. Don't glare at me, I was just talking casually. The red-haired boy shrugged, yawned, and his eyes suddenly glanced at a red gadget on Kaz's collar. I'll wipe it. You can't deal with a level 2 ordinary students actually want to wear this thing on the field. He was shocked. He always thought he knew how mean Kaz was, but he didn't expect that this guy was much meaner than he thought. Safety first. Kava smiled and turned the small thing around his collar to cover it. Really? Kavas, for the first time I feel that you are not an ordinary bitch. Thank you for the compliment. Consciousness amplifier. Or the hidden version. The red-haired boy was completely speechless. He watched the other party put away the red cube. The use of that thing was allowed. Merseth and Barry actually also had this, but it was not as long as you won't use it at critical moments. First, it is a consumable item and too precious. Second, using it for a long time will create a dependence on yourself. This thing is like a stimulant taken before a long-distance running competition. It is hidden enough to be difficult to detect, and it can also have a certain effect on increasing consciousness. However, the higher the consciousness level, the weaker the effect. But now that Kavas has reached the second level of consciousness, he doesn't even miss this small increase. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 800. The night is getting deeper and deeper. Garen sat upright on the bed, his breath flowing continuously from his mouth and nose, and he could barely hear his breathing. There were no lights on in the dormitory, and it was dark. Outside, through the branches and leaves, you could see the street lights on the road outside the gap, one after another stretching into the distance. The black watch terminal on Garen's wrist suddenly lit up. Did he? He opened his eyes suddenly and raised his watch. The contact number was displayed on it, Kend. It's finally here, he breathed a sigh of relief. Press the switch key. Ken's profile picture suddenly appeared on the terminal watch. The goods have arrived. Are they sent directly to you? The bearded uncle had bloodshot eyes and looked very tired. I'll pick you up when I leave the school gate, Garen nodded. Thanks a lot. It's okay, just prepare some general supplies. The bearded uncle gulped down his saliva. I'll be at your school gate in about 10 minutes. I'll be right out. The car is a black truck, number C563171. New. Garen disconnected the terminal, stood up, quickly put on his school uniform, put on his key card, opened the door and walked out of the dormitory. It was extremely deserted outside, with no one moving around. He looked at the time and saw that it was 2:42 in the morning. Almost all the students were already asleep. When I walked out of the dormitory building, the cold air outside hit my face. On the road facing me, the street lights formed a line and stretched into the darkness in the distance. There is no moon in the sky, it is covered by clouds. Garen figured out the direction and headed towards the street light road. Across the large area of the college, the buildings of the college were silent, like huge black plates stuck upside down in the earth. Some plates were flashing with tiny bits of electronic light, while others were completely dark. Walking to the express bus center, Galen took out a small change coin and threw it into the coin box of a white campus bus. The boxy white campus car suddenly turned on its lights, and the driver's instrument panel beeped once and lit up with a green light. Welcome to use the black plate campus bus, please voice input the arrival point. A synthesized mechanical female voice came out, which seemed extremely clear in the quiet night. School gate no one. Garen sat on the car seat. Please fasten your seat belts and press the pound sign to confirm. For some reason, this sentence reminded Garen of the automatic reminder voice when recharging his cell phone when he was on Earth. I couldn't help but burst into laughter. Get on it, start the car, and move forward silently along the deserted alloy road on campus. Occasionally, I can see other students returning late at night on the road. Some of them are so drunk that they fall asleep directly on the campus bus. Some couples touch each other directly in the car without fear of being seen by others. But very few people can see it. About 10 minutes later, the dark gate number 1 gradually appeared in sight. There were floating vehicles for foreigners parked at the door. The campus bus drove under the school gate and beeped twice. The destination has been reached, please get off the bus. Garen jumped out of the car, walked out of the school gate, and slipped through the gap between the parked hover cars. Not far outside was a night market with flashing lights and bustling crowds. A large area of yellow and red lights connected together, music, the sound of singing and the sizzling of barbecue supper on the iron plate. There were many people sitting on the street eating late-night snacks in the night market. Some were drinking and bragging, some got up to leave, and some just came over. Many of them are students in the college, and they are all wearing black school uniforms. Garen glanced around and immediately saw a middle-aged man wearing thick clothes and breathing white air on the side of the road. There was an old black car parked behind this guy. He stood beside the car and kept rubbing his hands. His nose was red with cold, and he kept taking out tissues to blow his nose. Walk over directly and tap this guy on the shoulder from behind. Possible, the middle-aged man was startled. He turned around suddenly and breathed a sigh of relief when he saw it was Garin. Oh, you don't know that scary people can scare people to death. Ken looked very haggard, and his whole body seemed to have lost a lot of weight. I'm sorry I couldn't come to see your preliminary round. The place was a bit far this time, but the quality of the goods was very good, so I ran a little further. Thank you for your hard work. Garin felt a little apologetic as he saw the other party working hard for his affairs, and he also saw the sincerity shown by the other party in this matter. Let's go find a place to have a drink. You're a rich man, you treat me to a treat, Ken said quickly. Okay, I'll give you my treat. Garin waved his hand nonchalantly. The two of them locked the car, went directly to a drink shop on the roadside, and asked for a private room to sit in. The environment in the white drink shop is pretty good, and the single rooms are also well soundproofed. This is because most of the students in Black Pan College are rich and don't care how much they spend. They only care about enjoying themselves well and whether they can get there. This leads to the campus. Small shops outside are expensive, but the service quality is very good. 2 cups of hot milk coffee were served quickly, along with some almond cake. The goose yellow soft cake looked very tempting, with a fresh red cherry dotted in the middle. Please use it slowly. The young girl working there bowed softly, then exited and closed the door. Okay, let's talk about it. How much are the goods this time? Galen took a sip of short-term coffee. This world also has similar flavored beverages such as coffee and tea, as well as many other types of beverages, but he's still getting used to the familiar drink will give him a faint sense of familiarity. Ken took a sip of coffee, picked up the cake and stuffed one into it after a few mouthfuls. After swallowing it whole, he took a breath. The total quantity is 2,562 yuan, and the quality will not let you down. I got the goods directly from one of the best quality companies in Beishi. I bought all of his sales in a quarter. He took out a white stone from his clothes and handed it over. Look, this is a sample stone, the one I just took out. Galen took it and immediately felt that the white malachite contained in this stone was indeed a little higher and purer than the previous stones, which meant that there were fewer impurities in other stones. The ingredients of high-energy fuel and malachite are higher. He cushioned the stone, picked it up and looked at it under the light, carefully observing the texture. Very good. Where are the other goods? It's more than 2,000 yuan in the car outside, but it weighs a lot. Ken picked up the wet wipes that were delivered and wiped his face and wiped some dirty areas vigorously. I need to check it out. Of course. Garin was not in a hurry for the time being. While Ken could take a rest and eat something, he would also check on his general points. He has been earning general points on the Battle Network recently, winning bits and pieces of lottery games, and has almost 14,600 points. 2,562 stones, if calculated at 5 points each, would require 12,810 points. This is a huge amount. Ken paid the advance to buy such a large amount of white stone. The risk he took was not ordinary. For a hawker like him, more than 10,000 points is a hard work for several months. To earn money. If the galleons here suddenly don't want it, then he will really lose money to death. It can be said that this transaction is Ken's largest investment in galleons, and it is a sincere investment. After Ken had eaten and rested for more than 10 minutes, Galen got up and went to the car with him to inspect the goods. The quality of the more than 2,000 stones is all very good, and there are no fake or defective ones like last time. This makes Garin very satisfied. With his peacock skill, he can tell the quality of a stone with just a few clicks of his peacock skill. Cleared everything. The two of them returned to the single room and sat down. Without saying a word, Garin directly transferred 13,000 points to Kent, leaving him with only about 1,600 points left. It's more than enough as a reward for your hard work and advance risk. Kent didn't refuse and accepted it graciously. Galen's performance last time had already convinced him that this guy was a standard young master who didn't care about money. This time he went all out to show his sincerity. What was it for? Wasn't it just money? Come here this time, there is one more thing. After accepting the universal points, he continued. Garin picked up a piece of snack and ate it slowly. The place where I purchased the goods was very surprised when they heard that I wanted such a large amount of colored stones at one time. You also know that the raw materials for extracting high-energy fuels will not actually use colored stones because they have too many impurities and the extraction cost is high. It's not cost-effective if it's too high. So the goods from that source of goods have always been half-dead, and the sales can only be as low as starvation. But this time I bought so many goods twice in a row, and the owner of the source of goods there knew about it, and he proposed to think about it. I want to meet the owner who actually purchased the colorful stone, Kent explained honestly. I don't know if you will want these stones after you get rid of them. If so, it would be best to establish a long-term cooperative relationship. Garin crossed his fingers. He wanted to acquire a white-colored light stone to practice. Although the cold hell peacock technique does not require the stone after building the foundation, this stone can speed up the progress of the technique, which is of great significance to him. Able to restore one's own strength as quickly as possible. He is not lacking in the realm of secret martial arts now, and he is not lacking in skills. The only thing he is missing is accumulation, the accumulation of energy, and the white-colored light stone can just make up for this. The other party wants to bypass you and trade directly with me. Aren't you worried that I will contact him directly without you? Garin asked slightly strangely. Ken smiled. My only advantage is that I am self-aware. I am not a necessary part of this business. If you leave me alone and trade directly, it doesn't matter. Anyway, I didn't lose from the beginning to the end. He acted sincerely and clearly meant what he said. Garin smiled. Well, I may need your help with something else in the future. We still have a lot of work to do together, so don't worry. I'll take the goods back first, and you'll wait for my news. No problem, Kent nodded and passed the number of the source of goods to Garin. He sat back in his chair and suddenly collapsed. You should go back first. I still want to rest more. It's rare for a wealthy person to pay for me. I didn't dare to go into a place like this and spend money casually before. It's too expensive. It's not cost-effective to pay for a private room and just sit there and leave in such a short time. Garin shook his head speechlessly and stood up. Then you have a good rest. I will call you after the finals. I'm waiting for your news. Kent waved his hand. Garin swiped some money to pay the bill, walked out of the store, went to the car and took out a large bag of stones. The bag was very heavy, but his physical fitness had improved a lot recently, so the weight was nothing. Carrying the bag, I quickly returned to school, got on the campus bus, put in coins, and started to return along the original route. There was no delay in the process. When he returned to the dormitory directly, it was already 4 o'clock in the morning. The finals started at 9 o'clock in the morning, and there were still 5 hours before the competition time. Although Garin had not slept for a few hours, he was in extremely good spirits. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 801. After returning to the dormitory, closing the doors and windows, and locking them, Garin quickly found the bottle that contained the fuel powder last time. Last time, he filled a large bottle of fuel powder, and this time he found a large number of bottles. Still the same steps as last time. Spread out a large piece of cloth, pour out the stones and pile them on top. Take off all your clothes, leaving nothing behind. Garen sat cross-legged in front of the pile of stones. This time the pile of rocks was much larger and higher than last time. Get everything ready. Closing his eyes, he slowly mobilized the secret martial art seeds of life in his body, the core of the cold prison peacock kung fu. In an instant, a mysterious light blue appeared on the surface of his body, and a trace of chill emanated from him. Start to slowly cool down the entire room. Stretching out his hands, Garen gently pressed them on the pile of rocks in front of him. Bang bang, 2 stones were lightly touched by him and rolled down from the top of the pile of stones. But before they reached the bottom, they scattered with a crash and turned into 2 pools of white sand scattered on the cloth. Immediately afterwards, the stones above the stone pile quickly began to continuously crush, refine, and scatter into white sand, which penetrated into the gaps in the middle of the stone pile. The rustling sound continued in the room. At this time, Garen was immersed in observing the abnormal changes in his body. He felt that his body was like a shriveled balloon, which was constantly being filled and filled again. Wave after wave of cold blue lines quickly flowed into his body from his palms under his mental attention. Different from the last time, this time there was no need for the blue cold rays in his body to surge out. Instead, the white malachite essence was spontaneously sucked into the palm, making it look more hidden and safer. A large amount of cold current surges into the body, disperses into filaments, is separated and absorbed by countless cold lines in the body, and then flows and circulates along the trajectory of the 5 elements. These large numbers of blue cold lines automatically form a 3-dimensional complex network in the body. They do not follow the meridians or blood vessels and nerves, but form a third system independent of these 2 systems. It seems that they have the secret martial art seeds of life are used as the core to weave a new physiological system by itself. Garen observed the automatic circulation phenomenon of the secret martial art seeds of life and understood the principle. As time passed, he noticed that the cold prison peacock skill in his attribute column quickly changed. Military martial arts, cold prison peacock kung fu, the secret martial arts of life, the source is unknown, the second level of heart transformation, the heart is transformed based on the cold prison peacock bloodline, in order to gradually strengthen the whole body's physique. Transformation time, 2 months and 6 days. The third level is 25% complete. This was the original data that Garen had just seen, but with the influx of a large amount of cold snap, the data of the third level completion seemed to be vaguely blurred. As the cold current was absorbed by the cold threads in the body and slowly circulated, Garen began to feel that the heart began to be filled with new power by the flow of a large number of cold threads. Countless cold threads converged on the heart, every cold thread injects new power into the heart. Snapped. My heart seemed to make a crisp sound all of a sudden, a very light sound. But it was this sound that caused the completion level of the third city of the cold hell peacock skill to jump sharply. The third floor is 26% complete. Sure enough, it has improved. Garen was slightly excited. Immediately afterwards, the degree of completion began to jump forward rapidly. 27.1%. The data keeps beating steadily. A large amount of cold energy poured into his heart, and Garen could clearly feel that his heart was constantly strengthening and getting bigger, as if it was about to explode from his chest. He stared closely at the data completion, watching it cross 40%, cross 60%, 80%, until 90%. In a daze, Garen felt as if his heart was cracking amid a gurgling sound like mud. He opened his eyes and looked down at the heart of his chest, where a faint blue light was slowly emitting, clearly reflected through the muscles and bones, giving people a strange feeling in the dark room. The cold prison peacock skill's heart transformation has been accelerated to completion, and the third level has been completed to 100%. The moment he saw this word, Garen suddenly felt an intense pain welling up in his heart. The pain was so intense, it was as if someone was grabbing his heart, twisting it, or even rubbing it. The severe pain rushed into his mind, exceeding the pain of any injury Garen had encountered before. But Garen, as a powerful being who has experienced several worlds, naturally will not be afraid of such a little pain. The second level of heart transformation was completed at the same time as entering the third level. Obviously, the long-term body transformation was condensed and compressed into this small amount of time. This is probably the reason for the severe pain. He endured the pain and still sat quietly in front of the pile of stones. The stones in front of him were also slightly scattered and turned into a pile of white sand. I don't know how long it took, but he woke up from the breath adjustment with sweat all over his body. He was extremely exhausted mentally, but his physical condition was as good as ever. It is finally over. After looking at the attribute column, Garen finally felt relieved. Finally there is a real qualitative change. All the changes in the entire body were completely visible, and there was a real qualitative change. No Chevalin, Strength 1.7, Agility 1.5, Constitution 1.8, Intelligence 1.5. Potential 0%. Soul Limit 40. Potential, Void Stalker. Soul Seed Northern Halberd Cold Flame True Water Evil Technique, Holy Phoenix Magic Book. Military Martial Arts, Cold Prison Peacock Kung Fu, The Secret Martial Arts of Life, the source is unknown. The second level of heart transformation, the heart is transformed based on the Cold Prison Peacock bloodline, in order to gradually strengthen the whole body's physique. Transformation time, completely achieved. The third layer of stomach modification is completed. The peacock has powerful phagocytosis ability. The stomach can swallow almost any substance. Combined with the heart modification, it can produce the ability to devour. Obtain the ability talent, devouring. The Cold Hell Peacock skill has developed the most basic and powerful talent of the Peacock Mother. The fourth level is 11% complete. The basic level is 5 levels, the derivative level is 3 levels, and the full level is 8 levels. The completion of each level of skills will purify one's own bloodline, gradually move closer to the Cold Hell Peacock physique, and finally achieve the highest form, with the limit being the Legion level. Seal of Steel, strengthen and improve body strength and constitution. The attributes have been improved on average, although not much. The strength has been improved a little, the agility has been improved by 0.3, the constitution has been improved a little, and the intelligence is the lowest, only 0.1, but this new innate ability is the foundation. Garen's eyes fell on a new icon appears behind the secret weapon, which is the skill ability icon that represents talent devouring. As soon as his eyes fell on him, a message automatically penetrated his mind and entered his brain. Peacock Mother swallowing. The Cold Hell Peacock's unique swallowing ability can swallow most substances to strengthen its own physique. The impurities after swallowing and digesting can be temporarily stored and condensed into twisted seeds to contaminate other living things. Seed of distortion. Pollution. Garen had already anticipated that with the incomparable power level of the secret martial arts of life, breaking through the third level did not strengthen his average quality, but only gained a devouring ability talent. Obviously, this talent must have a very special power. Effect. He shifted his gaze to the twisted seed. Seed of distortion. The Cold Hell Peacock itself will produce extremely powerful radiation. This radiation will distort the surrounding biological life forms and pollute them into a weird and unconscious war machine. The Cold Hell Peacock technique imitates this ability and creates this kind of radiation pollution, which can condense the seeds of distortion, quietly sneak into the heart of the enemy and control and mutate them into a powerful and unconscious killing monster. Its physique data and all other attributes will be increased by approximately 1.5 times. Seeing this, Garen frowned unconsciously. This kind of ability would be very useful in a ground war, but now in the world of interstellar warfare, such an ability cannot get close to the enemy. He continued to look and saw the effect of the distortion seed. This kind of existence is the radiation mutation pollution that the Cold Hell Peacock instinctively produces to purify its living environment. The twisted seed creature will automatically explode after killing all creatures except the peacock itself, and the resulting flesh and blood residue will pollute the air environment. The trees on the ground form a powerful environment with heavy radiation pollution. It's really useless. Garen's frown deepened. It seems we can only look at the strengthening effect of swallowing. He collected the information about the swallowing ability that had just been unlocked by the peacock skill in the secret martial arts Seeds of Life, and the content of the swallowing ability suddenly changed again. The peacock mother swallows. There are almost no substances that the cold hell peacock cannot digest, including steel, alloys, trees, creatures, stones, liquids, and even magma. If your physique is strong enough, all the energy generated by digestion can be used to create seeds of distortion and strengthen one's own physique. The maximum degree of enhancement is an increase of 5 points based on the original quality of the body. After reaching the upper limit, all energy can be released as cold energy to freeze enemies, generate derived abilities and freeze. A lot of information, much of it useless. In this interstellar age, distortion seeds are useless. On the contrary, devouring has some effect. After devouring and strengthening the body reaches the upper limit, the stored energy will be released as cold energy to freeze the opponent. This is a good ability. Garen checked the freezing effect. It was very far away, with a range of more than 100 meters. It could also be attached to a weapon and fired. In this way, it can be completely attached to the gun, and it can have the killing effect of freezing the opponent while shooting it. After reading so much information, although the improvement of the secret weapon is still at the basic level, the power displayed is already pretty good, but it is not very applicable in this world. However, white peacock impurity stones are still being obtained continuously. If they continue to improve to the next level, more powerful abilities will definitely appear, which makes Garen look forward to it more and more. The next step is the most critical part. Garen stood up and put on his clothes. His body was naturally cold and exuded a light fragrance. After reaching the third level, what will be the impact on consciousness? This is the key. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 802. Closing his eyes again and calming down, Garen's eyes once again fell on his conscious part. Consciousness basic intermediate level. Exercise method, Black Disc Control, free training method of Black Disc Academy. Continuous training effect is weak, the progress rate is 12 years / each level. Is it still the intermediate level? Garen frowned slightly, but at this moment, a faint cold current slowly poured into the pit of his heart, the first part of his mind to cultivate consciousness. The moment the cold wave entered, the skill bar of consciousness finally changed slightly. The words basic intermediate jumped suddenly and blurred for a moment. When it became clear again, it had become advanced. Consciousness basic advanced, obtain a certain level of enhancement of the secret martial arts of life. It really works, Garen was relieved. According to his inference and analysis, the first part of the exercise method is the pit of the heart, that is, the stomach. Then the secret martial arts of life can strengthen the body's quality, and naturally the stomach will also have some effects. A certain degree of strengthening will definitely affect the method of exercising consciousness. After all, consciousness itself is derived from the force field of the collective consciousness of cells. As all cells become stronger, the increase in consciousness is inevitable. In this way, when I practice the secret martial arts of life, my consciousness will also increase to a certain extent. He breathed a sigh of relief, fearing that the secret martial arts of life would have little effect on his consciousness. Check the slight increase in consciousness. He was already close to the advanced level, but now he has been promoted to the advanced level and is almost reaching the peak of this level. The levels are actually just divided categories, and there are gaps in between. The improvement of the secret weapon of life has also directly improved the level of consciousness. Although the basic advanced level has not reached the first level, it cannot control the machine freely. But it's already a big improvement compared to before. At least we can see Hope Gallon began to put the powder made from the impurity white malachite into bottles. The powder itself was also mixed with some other mineral impurities, but it was easier to extract than before, with a little processing. Expensive high-energy fuel powder can be extracted in one click, and money matters can also be solved at the same time. Garin glanced at the terminal on his watch. There were only a little more than 1,000 general points left on it. This money would have been spent carelessly. The treat just now cost more than 200 points. Now there are 1,402 left. We have to find a way to make money. As long as we get a batch of white malachite next time, we should be able to break through the first level. But now it's too late. The breakthrough just needs to be stable, and I don't have the money to buy a sufficient amount of white malachite. Garin thought about it in his mind. He looked at the bottle of powder he had filled. These powders can be sold for money, but there must be a reasonable cover, otherwise I, an ordinary student, can actually separate high-energy fuel powder by myself. Once this cheap technology is discovered, it will be a crime of concealment. Where high-energy fuels can be separated. Laboratories, biochemical factories, research bases, etc. Only places with high-precision technology can achieve this kind of fuel separation. Garin mused. So how do you put on this skin? For a moment, he didn't have a clue. If he set up a laboratory by himself and didn't have strong financial resources and connections, there was no need to think about it, and the laboratory was the cheapest among the three. Putting aside his thoughts in this regard for the time being, Garin looked at the time and saw that the sky was already getting slightly brighter. He had hardly slept all night, but he was in good spirits. The promotion of Peacock Kung Fu also strengthened his physique. He simply didn't want to sleep anymore. He took a shower directly, sat cross-legged on the bed and started practicing the exercises. In this state of meditation, time passed quickly, and in a blink of an eye, the alarm set by the watch terminal rang. When Garin opened his eyes, he could faintly hear the voices and footsteps of students passing by outside, and the sparse sound of the horn of the hovercar was also coming from outside. Taking a long breath, Garin felt that his consciousness was still unresponsive, and he knew that this exercise method was still not very effective, and it was far less refreshing than absorbing white malachite at once. It seems money is the most important thing now. Soon the teacher Ham called. How are you? How about rest? Instructor Ham's fat face appeared on the watch terminal, with a hint of drunken blush on his face. His hair was messy. It looked like he must have been up all night to celebrate last night. Not bad, Garin nodded. Teacher, you are not going out for a night of fun, are you? Let's not mention this little thing. We played well today. I couldn't be more satisfied up to this point. If we win or lose, we will win. Don't feel any psychological pressure. Ham waved his hand cheerfully. I understand, just go all out. Garin nodded clearly. Just understand. Come out and have breakfast quickly, I'll hang up first. Kindness. After hanging up the phone, Garin read the text message again, as well as the messages from his parents, all of which encouraged him to compete, pay attention to his own safety, and not to work too hard. Then came congratulatory messages from younger siblings. Some congratulations and inquiries from Elmia. After quickly replying one by one, Garin dried his hair and took Crescent Moon directly out the door. Outside, the whole school's broadcast was reviewing the finals. Garin put aside irrelevant matters and listened directly to the key points. In the semi-finals of the qualifying match, Melsith suppressed Nuabiza's red shield defense with the third-level skill of the three-pronged beam gun, and finally broke through the limit and won an easy victory with a surprise attack on the ion disruptor from behind. This is already Mersith's SI has demonstrated level 3 skills for the third time. Does this indicate that she is about to enter the level 3 comprehensive level? Even by our black market standards, the level 3 level is a well-deserved teacher level. Melsith has been known as a genius since he was a child. He has been able to stimulate his consciousness since he was more than 10 years old. He has practiced the most difficult secret ritual hourglass exercise method and is still able to break through to the third level at the age of 19. In this way progress rate. What follows is a series of words of praise for Melsith. Melsith, this young female student, has an invincible strength and image among her peers, and has been deeply ingrained in the hearts of all the students of her grade. As Garen walked, he ate nutritious meals, bread and milk boxes and nutritional balls bought at a roadside shop. These were all synthesized from artificially cultivated grain materials. They looked like bread and milk, but they were not. Really, it is an imitation. Real natural food is very expensive, and ordinary families can only afford to eat it during holidays. The development of various high-energy fuels, the rapid development of scientific and technological civilization, and the wanton destruction of war have led to the planet's ecological environment getting worse and worse. The harm caused is that food can only be synthesized by ourselves, just like synthetic drugs. Otherwise, there simply won't be enough, and even hybrid rice and the like will be of no help due to huge population pressure. Follow the college road, get on the bus at the campus bus station and go directly to the competition venue. The stadium was almost full of people, many of whom were parents of students who came from outside to watch the game. Nono's parents were on a business trip, and his younger brother was working because he was afraid that he wouldn't dare to come over. His younger sister had been missing all day. "I don't know what I was doing. Hey, I'm over here." As he walked into the arena, a bearded Huken's voice came from high up on the right side. Galen heard it and saw that this guy actually came into the academy to watch the game. He waved to him and walked directly to where the players entered the field. The arena became more and more lively, and there were not many players left. When Kaz, Barry, Melzes, and others entered the arena, they all attracted a lot of attention. After the same process prompts as before, the game officially begins. Garen sat quietly in his player area, eating the breakfast in his hand. When the synthesized food entered his stomach, he directly used the ability brought by the Peacock Kung Fu to swallow it. He could feel the food digesting in his stomach at an astonishing speed when devouring started. A piece of bread almost the size of a fist was stuffed into it, and in less than half a minute it was digested as if it had never been eaten. He finished his food and drank no less than 4 bottles of nutrient solution under the surprised looks of Fabry and Sarah. These things rushed into his stomach like a bottomless pit, and there was no bloating at all. Garen himself felt strange, but he could feel that there was a cold liquid stuff inside his body, just below his stomach. The more he ate, the bigger the stuff got. The swallowing ability not only improves the physical fitness, but also condenses the produced impurities to form the power to freeze the opponent. Is this what it is? Garen speculated in his mind. But there was little time, and it would soon be his turn to play. C5 Bano Siwa vs C2 Ban Long Yuka. The sound of the radio rang directly. Garen stood up from his seat. "Come on," Instructor Ham raised his fist at him and smiled, "just pay attention to safety, it doesn't matter if you lose." "Don't worry," Garen returned a no questions asked gesture, smiled, and quickly walked towards the entrance passage that opened behind him. At this point, almost all opponents are absolute top elite talents, and no one comes up by luck. Sitting in the mecha, Garen squinted at the black mecha opposite. Long Yuka? Strange name. The game has entered the top 10 competition. It is now a duel between the C-grade group. Long Yuka, ranked in the 8th class, versus Nono Siwa, ranked in the 9th class. Both of them have their own strengths in strength. Long Yuka was in the record, they only lost 2 games to Barry and Yusula, and won all other games. And Nono Siwa is even more powerful. He has never lost a single game and entered the finals with an absolute victory record. The broadcast is no longer a mechanical sound, but a professional commentator explaining the situation on the field with foaming at the mouth. On the field, two mechas faced each other, hundreds of meters apart. They are both motionless. The similarity is that both of them choose long-range shooting methods, and they are similar long-range defense methods, using long-range weapons and defensive shields. The huge black and white tower shield almost covered most of the bodies of the two mechas behind them. However, this shield looks powerful, and if you don't know how to use it, it will be destroyed in just 2 hits. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 803. Garen moved his shield. Game start. As soon as the initial sound fell, he raised his hand and fired 2 Gauss cannons. With 2 muffled bangs and bangs, the Gaussian shell slid out of 2 black lines and crashed into the tower shield in front of the black mecha. Then it suddenly slipped, deflected to both sides, and bounced away. There seemed to be an invisible force pulling the 2 cannonballs. Stop making these useless tests and see the real chapter directly. The opponent's voice came from the black mecha on the opposite side. He took out something like a black ball with his backhand, only the size of a mecha fist. Look at my homing grenade. Before he finished speaking, he suddenly moved to the left to avoid the incoming shells, and then threw forward fiercely. Amidst the roar, the black ball flew directly towards Garen's head. Then it exploded with a bang and turned into large black round beads, which rained down all over the face. Heavy magnet jamming grenade. Galen's heart skipped a beat. This weapon can actually be used by opponents. This is a weapon of mass destruction that even the second-level consciousness can only use 3 times. The powerful interference force will produce a huge distorted signal at the moment of contact with the mecha, and then it affects the internal signal transmission of the mecha, causing the mecha to move slowly or even directly paralyzed. Must stay away. At this time, he had no choice but to stop moving. Even if he blocked the scattered bullets in this range with his shield, the falling sub-munitions would automatically connect into a magnetic field, affecting the mecha's energy consumption and increasing its burden. It was difficult and unstable for him to control the mecha in UIA. If he added this thing, the chance of failure would be very high. For the first time, Garen felt that the game was out of his control. But fortunately, I only raised my consciousness yesterday, and Yuya's burden has been reduced a lot. I should be able to support more intense movements. This thought flashed through my mind. He glanced at the countless iron bullets falling from his head, rolled on the spot, and quickly moved a certain distance to the right. With a muffled sound, a Gauss cannon was fired from his body as he rolled, and the shells were fired at him. The black mecha brushed past his shoulder when he wasn't paying attention, and almost hit the head of the control center, scaring the other person into a cold sweat. Awesome. But only opponents like this are worth killing. Long Yuka seemed to be even more excited. He took out a heavy magnet interference grenade again and threw it again. Puff. A large number of grenade bombs once again covered Garan. For the mecha, the coverage area of more than 10 meters can be avoided with one movement. However, Garen's own consciousness is weak. At this time, he can only roll again to avoid the coverage net. He raised his hand and fired 2 more shots. Gaussian shells are only about the size of a gun for mechas and can be easily picked up with one hand, but the shells still hit the opponent's shield and were bounced away. It's a turtle shell again. Although Garen had already expected it and read the other party's information, he was still very unhappy when he actually encountered it. The 2 mechas were dodging grenades and the other was throwing grenades in the arena. Occasionally, a few Gauss cannons sounded, and the game was at a stalemate for a while. The white mecha controlled by Garen rolled on the ground time and time again to avoid the opponent's grenades, but the power of the heavy magnet jamming grenade seemed to affect even the consciousness. It was indeed a skill that the opponent used in combination with consciousness, and the power was really weird. He vaguely felt that his consciousness was becoming a little sluggish, and he couldn't help but feel slightly startled. After another roll, Garen unknowingly approached the black mecha, and the distance between the two was less than 20 meters. Crescent Moon did not make any mistakes this time. It seemed that because of his enhanced consciousness, Garen felt a little more at ease. He checked the time in a hurry and saw that only 2 minutes had passed. Seeing that the black mecha didn't notice his approach, Garen quickly moved to the left to avoid the scattered cluster bombs falling on the ground. A sneer came from the black mecha, and he raised his hand again. This guy was actually preparing to throw a grenade again. And it's a frontal throw. The moment he raised his hand, the grenade was still in his hand. Garen's eyes suddenly narrowed. It's now. He rushed forward with a bang, and the mecha almost rushed forward. The blue thruster behind him suddenly burst out with the strongest blue flames. Bang! The two mechas collided hard and slid more than 10 meters apart on the ground. Yugai, the black mecha dragon Yuka made an angry voice and squeezed the grenade in his hand. Bang! The grenade instantly exploded a large swath of submunitions, covering the two mechas together. The large black munitions were adsorbed on the surfaces of the two mechas as if they were alive. Suddenly there was a cry of exclamation from the audience. Obviously no one expected such a change. Garen's face was indifferent, and he raised his right elbow and slammed it down. At the same time, one knee was stuck between the opponent's legs, and the other hand directly triggered the gauze cannon. Elbows, cannonballs, all at the same time. Cokes. The white mecha was a complete novice in close combat, and was hit by Garen's consecutive heavy blows with almost no pause. The shields of both mechas were knocked out by the impact, and there was no longer any way to stop them. There was a loud explosion, and the black mecha cockpit exploded into a ball of flames. A black rescue capsule popped out and was pulled up by the gravity field above. The game is over, no Siwa wins. The electronic sound of the arena sounded. Garen's white mecha was also covered with cracks caused by the explosion, but compared to his opponent being instantly killed by a sudden attack, the result was naturally much better. Amazing victory. Student Long Yuka practices the giant sea current exercise method passed down from his family, and has nearly twice the total amount of consciousness compared to the general exercise method of his peers. This is also the reason why he can use the heavy magnet jamming grenade as a conventional weapon, but unexpectedly, he was killed by a long-range opponent using melee combat. This was undoubtedly due to his carelessness, and it was also due to the powerful and comprehensive variety of his opponent's tactics. The narrator began again. Standing up quietly, Garen looked up at the unwilling Long Yuka in the rescue cabin. This young boy with yellow hair seemed to be unable to believe that he had lost. After looking at the crescent moon, sure enough, the series of violent actions just now made this thing start to flicker with white light again. It is estimated that it will not be able to support it for long before it will go out of action. Garen then slowly drove the mecha back, not daring to move too fast, just walking slowly. But the feeling given to others is indeed unusually calm. It seems that player Nono Siwa was calm even when facing the finals. After the victory, he still returned to the mecha arsenal with his own unique gentle pace. He is worthy of being one of the only 4 players to have won all the games so far. The commentator's voice kept ringing in the sky. Garen was too lazy to think about it. After changing the mechas, there would be a will battle. He could only take a short rest. The finals on Faye Bailey's side were probably about to begin. If they couldn't win, the other opponents in the other class would also. Let him continue to deal with it. Returning to the hangar, he walked out of the mecha and rested against the wall. He watched the damaged white mecha being carried away, and a new white mecha came out of the inner warehouse. Maintenance lights shone on the surface of the mecha. There was no one around. He was the only one there. Everything else was automated facilities, but he could clearly feel that the monitoring equipment around him was constantly monitoring everything here. It's just my first opponent and it's so troublesome. Heaving a sigh of relief, Garen closed his eyes and rested his mind. If nothing goes as expected, he will have to face two tough opponents next. Faye Bailey's eyes were already mesmerized by sweat dripping down his face. He didn't dare to wipe them away. He could only try to keep his eyes open and stare at the white mecha wrestling with him in front of him. The two mechas collided tightly on the field, their elbows intertwined, and they kept fighting like a bullfight. When the performance of the mechas is the same, the only one who decides the outcome is the pilot. The pilot's awareness and whether the posture he adopts is favorable are the keys to victory. Faye Bailey didn't know how he got into this wrestling state, but he knew that it was the most beneficial state for him. Don't waste any effort. A frivolous voice came from the mecha on the opposite side. It was a woman. When have you ever defeated me since you were a kid? I didn't transfer here just to waste my time with you this time. I will win. Faye Bailey didn't say much, he just urged his consciousness even more and continuously poured it into the mecha's input port. It's useless. The white mecha's knee hit Faye Bailey directly in the abdomen, sending out a series of sparks. Keep a little distance between the two. At this moment, the white mecha started with a bang, and its elbows and legs suddenly exploded, rushing towards Faye Bailey like a violent storm. Bang 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 bang. Faye Bailey managed to block it time and time again, but the entire machine was constantly being beaten back. Damn it! Why? Why can't I always win her? His expression became more and more ferocious, and his consciousness poured into the input port almost desperately. But it was to no avail. The mecha that lost its balance suddenly flew up, and was directly chased by the white mecha with a single stride, and struck with an elbow. Bang! Faye Bailey felt a strong force push him out. Lost. He knew it was a rescue capsule. You're so weak. He lowered his head and could see the disdainful expression of his opponent, the green-haired girl, through the glass. C2 Bangzi Lin Sheng, the electronic sound sounded. Faye Bailey closed his eyes. He lost to the opponent again. Ever since he was a child, he had never defeated him even once. Xylan is the genius of the family. Whether it is internal competition within the family or inheritance of the family business in the future, if his father's hard-earned career cannot be defeated by her in the end, then that share of the family business will eventually be given to Xylan according to family rules. And his inheritance rights will eventually be replaced by Xylan due to incompetence. The family only allows the strongest person to inherit, without exception. Xylan is undefeated. That guy not only has second-level comprehensive strength, he even has the background to challenge Melseth and Barry. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 804. Did you really lose? It seems that boy can't get in front of me, Kava said calmly while looking at the field below. Several boys gathered around him, and they all laughed when they heard this. Would you like to add some spice to that kid? He actually dared to hit my little brother last time, someone said. Kaz looked at the tired-looking Nono Siwa below, and suddenly felt a slight sense of boredom for some reason. He was destined to be one of the top 3 masters, but he would spend so much energy on such a nobody. It's really ridiculous. My opponents should be Melseth and Barry. With characters like this, they can't even make it to the finals. If he can win this game, then let's talk. He looked at a black-haired man walking towards him on the other side. Have you got the information I asked for? I got it, but it's not very detailed. No one knows all of Barry's real cards. I tried my best to find out only one move. The black-haired man shook his head slightly. One move is already pretty good. A hint of surprise flashed in Kavas's eyes. Let me deduce it for you. Thank you. Thank you, just don't forget us when you join the elite. The black-haired man smiled gently. Of course, Kavas nodded solemnly. He casually glanced at Nono below, tilted his head slightly and said something to the people around him. Go and show Xylan some of that kid's weaknesses. I don't have time to waste on this guy. I know his little brother beside him nodded. Black Disk Academy, the high-level control hall of the giant battleship. In the black round arched hall inlaid with dense silver gems, 4 high-up black seats are suspended by strong magnetic force, occupying 4 different directions, forming a square. The virtual 3-dimensional images of human bodies flickered faintly on the seats, including 3 old people and a middle-aged woman. The middle-aged woman's face does not look old at all, but everyone who knows her knows that she is the oldest dean. Cruz von Sawa, who is now 259 years old, has become the dean of the dean. A full 79 years. This old man who has lived for 2 centuries does not look old at all because of his strong consciousness. As a result, he has always been the most powerful strategic-level mecha master in suppressing the Black Pan territory. She was once awarded a 3-star honor by the Mother Star Federation. She destroyed countless local mechas on the battlefield and gained a great reputation in the war. At this time, Cruz's eyes showed a rare hint of nervousness, and he stared quietly at a rotating silver sphere 3-dimensional model in the middle of the hall. "You 3, what do you think?" she suddenly said after looking at the ball for a while. The other 3 old people are respected old professors in the college, and they are all powerful mecha masters who are only worse than the dean. The 3 of them also looked carefully at the silver ball rotating in the center, with a slightly solemn look on their faces, especially the white light spots that were constantly flashing on the surface of the ball. "I don't know where the source of the rumors comes from," a bald and wrinkled old man said in a low voice, "but whether such rumors are true or false, they are not a good thing for our Black Pan territory." "Why isn't it a good thing?" "There are as many benefits as there are risks. If we can get a part of the forbidden mecha, it will be a qualitative improvement for our entire academy," another old woman retorted. "Then we have to bear the risk." The old man frowned and glanced at the other party. "Are you timid?" the old woman sneered. "I think you're going crazy studying pharmacy." The 2 were tit for tat and refused to give in to each other. "Stop arguing, didn't Kafi bring back a surviving child from that attack?" The last professor had white hair, but a red face, and a faint sense of sharpness in his eyes. He was obviously an ambitious man who was unwilling to be lonely. "His name is Symes, and he is also one of the 2 strongest mecha masters in the academy so far, second only to the academy principal who has not made a move for many years. He also serves as the deputy dean of the college. He has a calm personality and is a staunch supporter of force theory." That child that Kafi brought back, Dean Cruz seemed to have remembered this incident. "Kafi is one of the 3 strongest people under the Black Star in the academy, and is the inherited disciple of that old woman, Professor Baba. They are also the only 3 4th-level elite students in the academy. Black Star went to the Aurora realm. It is estimated that we can only let these 3 little guys come forward in a short period of time, which can be regarded as a kind of exercise," Professor Symes said lightly. "What do you mean?" Dean Cruz looked at this old friend for many years. "That kid Black Star Diofi can be said to be the strongest genius our college has ever trained. He is destined to surpass us old guys." Symes smiled, "but even a tiger living alone in the forest cannot defeat him. There are groups of lions, no matter how powerful they are, they still need to have their own power and have their own people to help them. So we have to let the 3 of Mediro and the others truly become Diofi's assistants." Cruz frowned slightly. "Isn't it a little dangerous? The young eagle in the eagle's nest cannot really spread its wings until it flies out of the nest." Symes still kept smiling. "I agree with this," the old woman Professor Baba nodded. The last person just kept silent, neither supporting nor opposing. Behind this incident of the forbidden mecha, there must be a relatively large organization promoting it, just like it was 20 years ago. But if it is only within our local area, I am still confident that we can guarantee the safety of the 3 little guys. "Personal safety." Symes said the last word and then stopped talking. Dean Cruz pondered for a moment. "Okay then, Let's leave the matter of the forbidden mecha to the investigation led by the three men with the title of Black Light. That's fine, this matter is settled, Baba nodded. Then what to do with the little guy who was rescued? He must be related to the forbidden mecha. His family was wiped out, and the other party seems to be looking for something. If possible, ask him if there is anything in his family that is worthy of such a big move. Are there any forbidden mecha parts? Cruz ordered. Okay, I'll let Kafi ask clearly. Baba nodded again to express understanding. Then that's all for today. Let's dismiss the meeting. Cruz clicked the button on the seat, and the three-dimensional images of the three people instantly dissipated. The second game, Nonoshiva vs Xylan. The mechanical sounds sounded, and Garen drove the white mecha slowly out of the passage without using the ejection system directly. What surprised him was that his opponent actually used two crimson gloves. The black mecha abandoned its weapons with both hands, clenched them into fists, and put on a pair of crimson spiked gloves. It looked a bit ferocious. But it's also a little thin. Because there are no other protective measures. The opponent stands calmly and motionless, giving people an immovable temperament. Garen's consciousness is now one level stronger, and he can already faintly feel a certain degree of consciousness fluctuations outside his body. At this time, he can clearly feel that the fluctuations emanating from his opponent are extremely powerful, giving him a faint feeling of panic. This opponent may be very troublesome. Garen recalled Xylan in the information. The information above showed that the opponent only had the consciousness level of level 2, but now it seems that the information collector has also been concealed by the other party. This guy is definitely more than just reaching the second level. Xylan frowned and stared at the other person's white mecha. She originally planned to choose the white one, but she didn't expect that the other person chose to occupy it first, which made her a little unhappy. Miss Xylan, can you hear me? Suddenly a clear voice came from inside the mecha. Ophiophagon japonicus? Is something wrong? Xylan sat quietly in his seat and asked calmly. I just got the news that your current opponent's opponent sent you a weakness, an absolute weakness, and that is the player from Nonoshiwa, his consciousness. Weakness, Xylan interrupted the other person rudely, I need you to tell me his weakness. Or are you saying that I can't beat him? That was not what I meant. I don't want to listen to your nonsense, idiot. Xylan didn't give the other party any face. The weak are all weak in front of the strong. They don't even understand this, how stupid they are. There was silence in the communication, only the sound of rapid breathing. It was obvious that the other party was also very angry, but it was obvious that he could only endure it. Game start. The starting sound suddenly sounded. Xylan coldly turned off the frequency band and focused his attention directly on his opponent. Bang! Her mecha's legs suddenly jumped on the ground, and flames spurted out from behind in the air in an orderly manner. The entire mecha actually showed a strange arc and rushed towards the opponent. A small curved step. One of the second-level low-consumption steps. The second-level steps, which are almost as difficult for ordinary students to practice, are as natural to her as breathing. Bang bang bang, the black mecha shook like a flying bat, even more irregularly than a bat, and pounced on the white mecha from mid-air. The spikes of her fists suddenly made two red marks, and she hit Garen hard on the head. What's even weirder is that following her moves, an inexplicable shock suddenly spreads. Boom! The two mechas collided suddenly. Garen's white mecha was staggered and fell backwards, with a crack appearing on his right shoulder. The gauze cannon in his hand was also knocked out, spinning and hitting the protective barrier and falling. What the hell is this? Garen was sitting in the mecha, feeling dizzy. His opponent just leapt up. He tried to aim and shoot several times, but the opponent evaded him strangely, making him unable to aim at all. And the most important thing is that as soon as the opponent makes a move, his whole body naturally emits an inexplicable and heavy interference force. This interference seriously affects his reaction judgment. If he hadn't been strengthened by the Peacock Kung Fu, his physique is not as ordinary as before. It is estimated that he will not be able to even make the final parry under this interference force. Shockwave Killing Fist appeared. Xylan actually practiced the Shockwave Killing Fist, which is close to the third level. He is indeed Xylan Wulan, who is known as the #1 genius in the family. The commentator's voice came into the arena through the barrier.